Apex Legends, it finally joins the Switch eShop, but is this free to play worth the monster 30 gig of space it's demanding? Well, today let's break down not only what Apex Legends is, as you know, we already know it's a great game, but how does it hold up on the Nintendo Switch? Here I'm talking frame rate, draw distance, the graphical downgrade, crossplay, the controls, and specifically Gyro, the Legends then as well, handheld play, and of course, how does the monetization work? So with that, look, hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here. Join our growing family and let's get started. Keeping it quick though, Apex Legends, it's a first-person hero shooter battle royale. Choose a legend though, as they are known here, and find yourself on one of two maps fighting to be the last team standing of 20 squads that begin. The map, you get no choice, it rotates automatically, and then squad size you can choose between duos and trios. Now, like any other battle royale, you do start the fight in an airship before jumping down into war. Land, and that is the time now to gather loot before facing your opponents as a ring closes in around you. It's a well-loved formula, and the pace here, it's fast. The guns, the attachments, the loot in general is varied, and I'm a big fan of the gunplay here in general. We also currently do find ourselves in Season 8 with plenty more no doubt to come. So at this point you may also ask, no solo play, and with the new update today they did introduce a solo play option. On the main screen you can tick a box saying fill squad automatically. Just be warned here, you may be solo, but you will still be facing off against teams of 2 or 3. This is for sure not recommended, and especially not for beginners like myself. I tested it, it was brutal, I literally died instantly. Now Apex's biggest success though is in its communication, 3 ways or a combination, it's completely up to you. First though, it does have built-in voice chat support for the Nintendo Switch. There's then a ping system with a tap of the right trigger just to spot like loot or maybe enemies on screen, and then one that I really do like, it has voice to text on screen from the options, meaning even if you can't talk you can hear what your teammates are saying, well, you can read what your teammates are saying on screen. My first suggestion for those new to the world of Apex, once you get the game loaded up, hit the gun range. Learn the guns, the ammo, learn the colour match system with attachments, ammo, all that good stuff. And then when you do finally jump into a battle, focus on health, armour and shield related loot. Not just guns, you'll be thankful for it, trust me, later in the end game when you're facing a ton of enemies. Then also experiment with the legends. I've been rolling with Bangalore myself. The reason for this, they each come with 3 different abilities, one passive, one technical, one ultimate. Right now though, her passive ability, it saves my life, as it actually gives her an automatic speed boost when she's being shot at. Also, I will say work on sliding as well, because 1, you'll feel like an utter badass when you take out an enemy and you're kind of like sipping across the floor, but 2, it's for sure a go-to strategy when you find yourself caught in crossfire. Now finally, to play the game you will need to sign up for an EA Origin account. This is how it supports crossplay, and I can confirm you do not need a Nintendo Switch Online account to play this one. Apex Legends features 16 legends in total, with no doubt more to come further down the line. That said, look, if you don't want to part with any real world cash, you'll find yourself starting with 6. The remaining 10, you got 2 choices: grind it out and expect to unlock maybe 1 character every 20 levels or so, or of course pull out that credit card. For beginners like me, I do think the base roster is more than enough, but if you do want to unlock them, you know, right now they cost 750 Apex coins. These can be purchased in increments of 1,000, and that starts at roughly $10. Alternatively, there is also a champion edition of the game which includes all characters up to Season 7. So Apex Legends early reports suggested frame rate would be 30 frames per second, with docked outputting at 720p and handheld rocking 576p. Now I did a few checks here to see how it felt. I got to the high points in the map. I found the wide open vistas, which there is many in this game, and for the most part, as advertised, it did indeed hold at 30. Now at one point I did find my way into a 4-way firefight, which dropped the FPS to around 26-27, but for the most part it holds steady whether you're catapulting your way into the air or taking a battle team versus team. It is though still not ideal. However, when you factor in other consoles, they are pushing 60 FPS and then a 4K display alongside that. Handheld, while I can't obviously test the frame rate, it did feel like that frame rate was just a bit more on the favorable side on that 576p image. While initially I will say sharper due to like the small screen size, it's so small it's very difficult to distinguish opponents in the distance. So Apex Legends, it is a stunning looking game, just not on the Switch unfortunately. It pushes many systems to the absolute edge when you combine the detail and the map size. Now I don't think this will surprise many, but there's a sizable downgrade on show here. There's a much softer, image, noticeable pixelation, poppy, and a lot of the special effects they've been dialed back, textures, and just generally when you get up close to near end I think it is extremely blurred. Also the detail in the world just gone. Grass is now for example just flat and green. This though, I've got to say, I expected. What they have achieved here still is a solid draw distance, so that soft image often makes it difficult, as I was saying, to spot enemies. They also don't tend to pull away from your ability to see an enemy, rather they just kind of take the detail out of everything else, which is not a bad thing. You're just going to need good eyesight to spot your foes from a distance, because often they're kind of just very pixelated. Now I'm booting the game up, honestly, look, I wasn't impressed. When you're in the dropship, the map is basically one big blur, but get to the ground, it sharpens up a bit and you for sure can see the work they've put in here to basically make it work for us. Just make sure you avoid other consoles and play with Switch players only, which we're going to discuss next. Okay, so now graphics, frame rate, it's all lower than other consoles, so you may be concerned about crossplay and of, facing other platforms, and that is completely understandable. 30 FPS and a lower resolution versus, let's say, 4K and 60 FPS, you're going to be losing that fight 9 times out of 10. Now fortunately I will say I'm happy to see here crossplay can be turned off and you can compete against Switch players only. I'd strongly suggest you at least start here to get into the swing of things before you maybe open things up to other platforms. Hopefully those Switch users come out in full force to support this one and we won't have any trouble finding games. Gyro controls then are on offer and its movement is constant, not just when you're aiming down a scope. For me, I'm not particularly a fan of that. I like it for minute adjustments down the scope. Fortunately though, they have addressed this with sliders in the options menu where you can change their impact from down the scope or obviously just standing still. While you can't remove it entirely being on at all times, you can adjust both, so they are next to nothing on a movement front. Another nice touch as well here, HD rumble is present and it's actually used to great effect. Like when you jump it starts on the left side of the controller and then when you land it hits on the right. So Apex Legends, first off, not pay to win. There's really no way to advance quicker, rather everything paid here is cosmetic. I think the main purchase most out there will consider is going to be the Battle Pass. It's $10, it lasts the entire season, and it just unlocks limited edition style cosmetics, skins, and Apex packs with progression. Apex packs, they're basically loot boxes and they give you free items rated either rare, epic, or legendary. Apex packs can also be purchased for 100 Apex coins or $1. Pricing though, I think it's mostly fair, nothing out of the ordinary for the genre, that is, except for maybe heirlooms, which seem to go above the $100 mark, and yeah, no thank you, that is only for the most dedicated. Alongside cosmetics then, you can expect to find skydive trails, music packs, and even some alternate load screens, but they all do have individual requirements. It's not always going to be currency based. Alternatively, you can of course grind it out as well if you want to unlock stuff without pulling out the credit card, but I'm going to say it again, the grind is real. As you progress, expect to earn crafting metals, these can be used for it, but you're going to be waiting a long time. So if you do purchase the Season 8 Battle Pass on Switch as well, just know we get the first 30 levels for free, as we are now a few weeks into Season 8 launch. We also get double XP for the first 2 weeks of play starting at release. No matter when you download it, it is only for that 2 weeks. You can also then get a free legendary Pathfinder skin if you boot up the game prior to the end of Season 8, which is May 4th. So the final verdict and the first impression, I gotta be honest, it was rough. The opening, the map pops up and it's basically one big blur. I was nervous to say the least, and I'll be honest here as well, like if you have any other way to play this game, you start there, not here. If you are playing this Switch build, you really need to turn off crossplay and face Switch opponents only who are, you know, they have the same restrictions as you. The frame rate, the resolution, it's just too much to give you any real chance against someone that's going to be rocking 60 FPS and a 4K image. The effort though at the same time, it is clear a mostly stable frame rate, compromises that allow opponents to be spotted in the distance, and everything is here intact from other consoles. They even went ahead and stuck in gyro controls and HD rumble, so it's not bad for a free to play. It is a serviceable port for those, as I said, that have no other option or must have it on the go. But if you played this in any way before, it's gonna maybe be just a little bit too much of a drop to visit it here. So what do you think though? Can you handle these graphics, this frame rate, and also this resolution as a sacrifice to get Apex Legends on the go? Or is it just too big a compromise that you're not willing to make? With that then, a shout out to the patrons of the channel who are just going above and beyond to support SwitchCorner. It helps more than you know, so thank you all so much. If you do want to check that out for yourself, I have linked it in the video description down below. Then hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here. Join our growing family, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.